Hello. I hope you're all doing well. Mentally, physically, and spiritually. We have recently had a protest. The protest was unsuccessful. We did not succeed in getting the Dum Diversus 1452 destroyed. I'm sorry to inform you, to those who actually care, on paper and in reality, you, the melanated people of the United States, you are still enslaved. We're at a point in history where the whole world is beginning to speak of the end of days. And the servants of the Creator are still enslaved. The servants of the servants, the Canaanites, have to a great degree usurped the Israelites. How many of you say you're Israelites and understand what it means to be an Israelite? You're born into captivity because the heirs of your forefathers, they simply couldn't just worship He who created him. There's this entity that we consider to call Lucifer. And Lucifer was thrown out. And the interesting thing is a human from the bloodline of Israel was chosen to take his place. Now we have something that we can see in Psalms 2. This is a Bible. Probably doesn't matter which version you have. If you open up to Psalms chapter 2. If you're watching this video and you're not going to open your Bible, you're just watching for entertainment, I hope you're not entertained. I hope you find it boring. Psalms chapter 2, verse 1. Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine a vain thing? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against His anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder, and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in heaven shall laugh, the Lord shall have them in derision. So, the kings want to break the bands of the anointed and cast away their cords. Where would the bands lead? A band is elasticity, right? It's a connection, a telephone wire, a plug, a band. A puppet has a puppeteer. If the one that sits on the heavens, sits on the throne, has anointed ones, then he's the puppeteer controlling his anointed one. These people that sit between want to break the bands because he's got to bring his anointed into the people. They want to break the bands and cast the cords away. So what does David say? He that sitteth in heaven, in the heavens, shall laugh. At who? The heathen. The kings, the heathen kings of the earth. The Lord shall have them in derision. If you don't know what derision is, go ahead and look it up. Pause the video. In fact, somebody just go ahead and put the definition below. That way nobody's ashamed because they weren't taught this by their educator that really didn't want them educated. So, then shall he speak unto them in his wrath. This is the Lord, the Creator. All right? He shall speak unto them, the kings and the heathen, in his wrath. He'll speak with his wrath. How does the Lord speak with his wrath? You call it, you sinful bastards, you call it Mother Nature. Oh, Mother Nature threw up another tornado. 128 tornadoes in 1 year, and you think you're in God's land? Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. There's a 3 there. What does 3 say? Vex. Let's see. Or trouble them in his sore displeasure. 6. Psalms 2 and 6. This is in the Old Testament. All right, so nobody fall asleep just because it's the Old Testament. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. There's a 4 and a 5 there in verse 6. I have set my anointed upon Zion, the hill of my holiness. Alright, so he keeps saying that he is placing his anointed on that throne. That same throne that's talked about in Jeremiah. That's talked about in Isaiah. That's talked about in Ezekiel. That same throne that is not talked about in the New Testament because Greeks and Romans don't want that prophecy to take place. There is a new covenant, and you're told about the new covenant in the Old Testament. And it did not happen in the time that the Israelites were being destroyed by Rome. It did not happen at the time of the destruction of Jerusalem or Jerusalem or Perusalem. However you can accept it. The castle Salem. Now, I have set my king upon my holy hill. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said to me, thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Oh, wait. This is King David, isn't it? Wow. That whole Christ stuff really took me away. Now that I have the idea, since it's Psalms and it's David's Psalms, that David is the begotten son, and that's who replaced Lucifer in heaven. Wow, this is all starting to make sense. Is that why Lucifer's jealous? Is that why he's more jealous that he got kicked out? And then what was revealed to Lucifer is what he lost out on? I don't know. I'm gonna go back. Wait. I thought Jesus was the only begotten son. See, now we have a son of man called King David that is called the begotten son. So listen, if you have David sitting over here on the right side, on the real right side, right, being called by God, the begotten son. But you have Jesus over here on the left side saying, I'm the only begotten son. Oh, see, something's not right there. But I died for your sins. Well, you know what? Every prophet said, we're gonna have to hang for our own sins. What I do wrong to the world, I'm gonna have to pay on my own. If I take blood from somebody, I'm gonna have to fucking pay with my own. I understand people have been taught strong things from people they consider very reliable. Grandma, grandfather, mama, dad. They all taught us about Jesus. They didn't teach us how they found out about Jesus. Now, if you follow all that word of mouth, all the way back to the root of melanated people learning about Jesus, it don't go back to no Africa, Jesus. It goes back to 1492. That's the date black people found out about Jesus. See, what you don't know is there a trade over here going on in the Americas between Spaniards, Europeans, Portuguese. Now, when that trade went bad, then all of a sudden, 50 years later, you got Columbus coming over. Look, in 1452, a decree is written saying, take whatever you want if they don't have a Christian prince. 50 years later, Columbus comes and starts slaughtering people in Cuba. Say it with me. 7 million people living there. When he's done, 2,000 people left. Let's say it again. Let's say it in unison. 7 million melanated people living there. When Columbus was finished, 2,000 people left. 7 million melanated people living in Cuba before Columbus. Columbus gets there, 2,000 left. I can do that all day. I can mix it up. I can mix and match. But it's still the truth. The Jesuits recorded that 7 million lived before and 2,000 lived afterwards. These aren't numbers that I'm just making up. What do you think happened when they left Cuba and went to the mainland? You already know what happened. I mean, it's written in the what happened between him and Montezuma. Now that I brought up Montezuma, now you need to understand something. Montezuma is not African. Montezuma, the Aztec king, he's Negro. And I can prove it to you. Now, we got a big problem. Like I said before, we've got a bunch of Canaanites ruling Israelites. Now, the Canaanites come in different types. Like, we've seen different nations of Canaanites. We've seen Hittites that look like these average Indians that you're told had all the United States and Canada. But somehow your black ass ended up here. It must have been on slave boats. They have the Phoenician that looks like a different version of those types of people. Type in Rama people and you can see that they are reddish yet stringy hair. You have Amorites, who have afros and beards, but they're Canaanites. You have Jebusites, which I don't know what they look like. You have Sinites, which are the Chinese and Japanese families. Those aren't even Asian. They're not even Asian. But they're classified as Asian today, as a proxy, as a filler. Because even the Canaanites are considered Afro-Asian, as well as the Afro-Asian Shemites. Interesting fact. You know, somebody brought up the E1, B1A. And then I started doing some research. And the E1, B1A led back to the E1, B1B. And the E1, B1B, pardon me, leads to Africa. The E1, B1A leads to African Americans, and the E1, B1B leads to Africans. So, you know, this guy that keeps saying these E1, B1A are Israelites, that's bullshit. I fell for that shit. And that's why I want to know more about the study of blood. I was supposed to do an interview with a guy that works in blood, and I forgot. I wrote his number down, and I'm just not good with those numbers, man. But E1, B1A leads to African blood. Hamite blood doesn't lead to Shemite blood. And the dead giveaway is E1, B1B. If you need to see that written down, just, I don't know, just type it in. Oh, there. Of course, everything's always out of reach, right? So look. Now, I'm not like some genealogist or any kind of shit like that, you know. You guys know that. I just research. So just understand there are teachings that African American are E1, B1A. But see, you can see from the numbers already, these two are related. They change on the final, right? And so, how can E1, B1A be related to E1, B1B? Unless it deals with the Canaanites leaving Africa and coming to the land of Canaan, which is the Americas. See, this is how come, see, they had this is, when they defeated all of our families, and the slaves are left over, and the slaves are looking at each other. Of course they're going to look like Africans, because they left Africa thousands of years ago. The amount of Africans that come over here through slave trade is not true by their standards. Most of the slaves they got came from these lands. So saith the colonist that wrote books to other whites in the 1600s. That's why it's so hard to find a book from the 1600s today. Because the truth are in those books. That's why they got all these other books telling you all this other shit. Telling you you're from Africa. Telling you to be a Christian. Now, Zondervan. Zondervan. See, this is what trips me out. You got all these people with the black power mindset, the Afrocentric mindset. That was Africa for years and years growing up. Now all of a sudden somebody told them they're Israelite. Now they say they're Israelite. They then went from Africa to Israel. Not even thinking that's saying, oh, I was a Hamite, now I'm a Shemite. So look, just study more. When somebody starts babbling, read the story that they're babbling about. Don't just trust what they're babbling about. Including me, nobody's above correction. Because once they start just mixing shit up on purpose, you're not going to know the difference. Here we go. Zondervan definition of ham. That's a little sideways, right? Youngest son of Noah, born probably about something before the flood, and one of the 8 progenitors of the dark races, not the Negroes. You want to know something that's funny? When you're in these Bible camps and you're introduced to the idea, the theory that you're Israel, when they read this to you, because everybody has this in their ammo. Everybody highlights not the Negro. But you've been growing up for 30 freaking years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, telling everybody I'm African American, not Negro. Now all of a sudden, Israelites and Negroes, now all of a sudden you're Negro. 50 years your family heritage. You've known you're not Negro. Those other kinds of blacks are Negro. We're not Negro. We're African American. You've known this. We're colored. They're Negro. We're black. They're Negro. Now that there's some fucking stake on the line, now all of a sudden you're Negro. I'm gonna fuck y'all up. Oh, first chance I get, man. So the event was unsuccessful. When we arrived, there was 2 of us. I and a Mediterranean person that traveled over 1,000 miles to come and support your melanated skin that you did not show up for. Vic, I believe, was there first, and he was waiting across the street for us. And when we arrived at 10 o'clock with our permit, there was 3 of us. By 10:05, 10:15, more people had came. Eventually there was 15 people. 15 people stopped their lives, understood what has happened to us in history, and came to protest against the key figure in our perpetual slavery. But you were busy. I make $8.35 measly cents an hour to lift and benefit this company. I have a owner of the company. He has a mansion here, and he just bought a mansion in Florida. When I ask for raises, they throw me change. there's not enough money in their raises to change your dinner one night per week. I was able to travel to Washington 3 times in 2 months. They have children's discounts. They have a lot of options and benefits for people that are in special conditions. But you've got all 5 fingers and toes. Everything's attached, everything's fine. 51 people said they would attend the event. You reverse it, 15 showed up. 14 melanated people. 1 was a baby. 1 was a baby. 1 was a 17-year-old. 17. I can't wait till he has children and teaches his children the truth. His mom, he told me, him and his sister came. His mom hates me. Wants to beat me over the head with sticks, not to kill me, just to release anger, I believe. She brought them. She drove them there. This woman does not like what I say, but her children believe in me, and she brought her children there. There was a baby there, man. There was a toddler there. It wasn't a baby. I like saying it. There was a baby. There was a toddler there. And that little guy was pretty inspiring. You know, there was a moment when we were all standing around, we were sharing who we are and what we all wanted to say. That since we had, you know, a moment to share amongst ourselves and stuff, and talk to each other. And as people introduced themselves, he kept going. Little Mr. Smith kept going like that, and then we all would clap. I mean, we were following his lead. Like he was critical, man. He was critical. But we had a wonderful time. It was like a family reunion of strangers. It was amazing. When we started arriving, the delegates, they started loading their cars and driving away, and then there were 2 that decided to tough it out for a minute. So they sat in their car and talked as our numbers grew shortly, you know. But when they saw that there wasn't going to be that many people, that they actually parked the car again and went right back in and went to work. So, you know, they had a contingency plan, but you know they didn't need to use it because, you know, not enough people came out. Now, I would like to say not enough people understood, but then that would be to say, well, how could people not understand? Did they not take the time to look up information on their own? Did they just listen and not care any further? I want to remind you about something, alright? No matter what you say about this event and your participation or lack of participation, we are considered dumb nigger trash. No matter what standard of African American or Negro we come from. We are considered the low. There is nothing below us but death. And he's climbing. I want to remind you something. There's a saying that's proven consistently. Knowledge is power. The problem is, knowledge is in books. Chris Rock makes plenty of money saying if you want to hide something from a Negro, put it in from a nigger. When an African American acts out, he's considered a nigger, and when a Negro acts out, he is then considered a nigger. But everybody's proud to be nigger, right? So, if you want to hide something from a nigger, put it in a book. That's why there's smart African Americans and there's smart Negroes. That's why there's successful African Americans and successful Negroes. But there's just thousands of fucking niggas. Because you don't give a fuck about yourself. That's the bottom line. Knowledge is power. If you don't know a fucking thing, you're powerless. Right? As a whole, all of us as a group, if we grouped together and said, hey, as a whole, this is the level we all know, we don't know anything. We don't know anything at all. All we could fucking say together is Jesus saves. What's the difference between us now and the Catholic Church ruling over their little Catholics and Christians before they sent them over here to destroy us? We're the dumbest bricks. And we choose it. That's the problem. See, we'll lift and cater to anything and anyone. See, that servant thing we can't really get away from. Some of us can. We sloth around, right? Beg. Serve or beg. You see how many people sit in front of stores now and beg? They would rather beg than work. It has gotten that bad. It has gotten that out of hand. Without knowledge, there is nothing that we can do as a group. As an individual, I can go off and become just as successful as any other Negro or as any other African American. We've come to a point where collectively our actions, even those that haven't participated, is going to bring us to a destruction. These people that rule over us have given our oppressors the upper hand. The oppressors will use that hand against us because it's survival of the fittest. We have one option. That's all we have. And it's the Creator. The Creator gave us an option to leave, to go reclaim David's what? David's spot in the mountain. That's all we got. We don't belong here anymore. Our value is no longer needed. The idea that the Israelites could be called together and the servants could be called with them on this soil it's not written. It's said to call assemblies, but it's not written. This was something for the individual to come out to do. And even in a political ring, you failed to do that. And I'll put it to you like this. If if you chose not to understand Dumb Diverses 1452, then why do you complain about being black, about being labeled black, about calling yourselves black? Why do you complain about being oppressed? Our melanated forefathers left strategic situations throughout history for us to repeat. All we had to do is enact this to get our freedom. We've seen them that say they are Jews and are not reclaim a place that they want to call Israel. We legally have the right to return. I think the problem is the melanated people. See, I understand it's hard for people that live in central United States. I understand how it's hard for people that live in the West Coast to come all the way to the East Coast. But the people on the East Coast, see, they migrate to each other all the time to party. When that Bible says, when the Creator says to His prophets to tell the people, you are not to worship holy days on oppressed soil, they do the opposite. They do the opposite. They'll get together for any kind of gathering and call it holy. But they won't protest to free their own flesh. They'll travel hundreds of miles to go to New York for Passover, when you're not supposed to serve Passover when you're in what? Slavery. The Passover is to leave, not to travel hundreds of miles for that. Bring drinks, dress nice, bring gifts. You won't travel to free your own flesh. I'm proud that 14 people showed up with me. I'm proud that someone that's not of our condition and that's not melanated came to support us. On the other hand, I'm disappointed. I'm not disappointed that 51 people said that they would show, and a lot of those people didn't. I'm disappointed at all the other lazy, pathetic people. People enslaved you. And nobody can free you but yourselves. And you chose not to. As historically you always have. And this is why the Negro never wants to be called an African American. Just like the African doesn't want to be called a Negro. Oh, except when the title of Israel's on the line. Oh man, can a leopard lose its spots? It's just starting to make sense, isn't it? I'm going to show some more of this here. This is why I'm reading it funny, because it's the definition of ham, and you know, when you take a picture of the book, it curves and you can't read the words. But everybody's seen this definition, and everybody knows that Ham's the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes. All the dark races except for the Negroes. Okay, so why is there any question? Why do dark people sit there and say, "Oh, okay, well, okay, here's brown. That's what I wanted. I forgot. Here's a gradient of brown, right?
wanted to make sure people understand the color brown. Alright, so there's some brown children with blonde hair and blue eyes, right? There's some black children too. You can use this child to argue against me. I will understand. Yeah. Wow. That's one pretty ass kid. Look at the tones on her. Alright. So they got curly hair, they got straight hair. I'm tired of you guys with this shit, man. Now, let's go back to the Egyptian wall. Hey, look on here. Look at the little boy with the blonde scalp, right? Little boy with the blonde scalp. See, isn't that here? Just in case, a little pointer. Blonde scalp, blonde scalp. Now let's go back over here. This is a Hebrew, Israelite, African roots, whatever. Blonde scalp, blonde scalp. Now we got pictures on the wall that show us these kids of Solomon Island. Now, do you see why they call it Solomon Island? Oh man! All right, so somebody sent me some junk. They sent me Caucasian Israelites, right? And so when you scroll down, like, does it show you black people? Well, they show you that Arab shit, right? Show you black people. I typed in Caucasian, or the guy wanted me to just type in Caucasian. They just keep showing you black people. He wants me to see Assyrian or some shit, but still see black people. See, look, somebody understands leprosy. Somebody understands leprosy very well. I'm not trying to hurt people's feelings. I'm trying to show you freaking-ality. Alright, so they wanted me to put that up, and it was stupid, because when you type in Caucasian Israelites, it just keeps showing Negroes. Alright. We got Zondervan. Where's it at? A little further down. Here we go. Here we have Negroes, right? How do you tell the difference between Negroes and Africans in the 1600s, the 1700s? Okay, so this is a slave poster, right? To be sold on board the ship. Alright? We already know the Negroes. Here, watch this. Here's Montezuma. This is the Aztec king. Montezuma. Right down here. Right? What does he have? Feathers in the head, feathers on the chest, feathers around the waist. Right? That's a Negro symbol. What does he have? Feathers on the head, feathers around the waist. Right? Negroes. King Negro? Stolen Negroes. Right? Watch this. This is some crazy shit. Alright, so I was reading this site, and this site wants to promote that whites are Israelites, right? Some bullshit about chapter 12 collaborate. I think you're missing an L. Corroborating evidence, not collaborating. Corroborating evidence. Okay, so he isn't missing an L. I'm just missing more words in my lexicon. So, Jews are not white. Alright. Professor tells Rabbi. Boston, a political scientist at the... Let me see if I can get that bigger. Yeah, make it big. We're gonna Big Mac it. Brontosaurus burger it for me. Hold it up. Boston, political scientist at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, who's been speaking to Jewish conventions over the past few months, told the Reform rabbis meeting here that Jews are not white. Speaking as a Jewish academician, Professor Leonard J. Fain, so it's Leonard Fain, Professor Leonard Fain, explained that we are not white symbolically, and we Jews are not literally white. Well, no shit. Here's a napkin. Here's a dirty napkin. That's white. No man has that color flesh. Alright. So when they sit there and read something, her skin was white as snow, you gotta call bullshit on that, you know. Ooh. Snap that like a neck. There we go. Now, Leonard J. Fine explained that we are not white symbolically, and we, the Jews, are not white literally. He then added that we should not permit ourselves to be lumped together with white Celto-Saxon America. Excuse me, for that is not where we belong. Continuing, Professor Fain explained that we Jews are too much an oppressed people still, and too much a rejected people, even in this country, America. To accept the designation white and to count ourselves as white, moreover, is to deny our brotherhood with the Yemenites and the Kurdistanis in Israel. Now, if you go to your Bible, Yemen is Hemen. That is under the Edomite bloodlines. He gave himself away right there. Now listen closely. Moreover, it is to deny our brotherhood with the Yemenites and the Kurdistanis in Israel, with the Beni Yisrael from India, and the black Jews of New York. See, these are these Israelite schools, these Israelite camps that he's talking about. The black Jews of New York. Now listen to this. Employing a theme which he used in addressing other Jewish conventions, Dr. Fain asserted that the Jews are not black. That's deep. We are Jews, he went on, and because we are Jews and are not white and are not black, isn't that, let's TV timeout, isn't that what I say? Okay, let's get back to that. Because we are Jews and are not white and are not black, we must see to it as a community that we do not come to act as whites, whether by choice or because others so identify us. So if other people call them white, then they're saying, well, don't act white, so that even when that happens, we're set apart. So then he goes on to say, this is where it gets badass. For a minute. Not only because it is forbidden of us. Don't act white, because it's forbidden of us. Not only because we, of all people, ought to know better, but because we, the Jews, shall cut ourselves off from our own future if we do. Look at that. Now, here's something interesting. Listen to this. Professor Fain, he then went on to relate this view to the Negro. Listen, all Negroes. This is not for the African American. I'm not being a smartass. You understand the point when you read the Zondervan Dictionary of ham, definition of ham. Listen, this is what he's telling all the Negroes. And because we are Jews. Did you just hear what he just said to the Negro? And because we are Jews. He's saying him and the Negroes. And because we are Jews, it seems to me we are entitled to insist that there be special relationship between us Jews and Negroes. Let's go back to the top. And Professor Fain then went on to relate this view to the Negro. And because we are Jews, it seems to me we are entitled to insist there be special relationship between us Jews and Negroes. Between us and Negroes. See, the writer's inserting Jews there. See, Professor Fain is saying, because we are Jews, the fake Jews, the Sumerians, and the Negroes, because we are Jews, it seems we should be entitled to have a special relationship between each other. A relationship based not upon a common enemy, not upon a common history, because we don't share the same history, but instead upon a common purpose. A common purpose? The purpose of teaching, in the time that you should be preaching and teaching, the purpose of teaching America, at long last, what pluralism is all about. Now, what is pluralism? Plural. More than one. Plural. That's not going to give me a definition, is it? Excuse me, what is pluralism? The pluralism of religious traditions and cultures. No. I just want the freaking definition. The holding of two or more offices or positions at the same time. See, the holding of two. See, the Edom, the Ashkenaz branch of Edom are in control. The Negro is at the bottom of the control. This is pluralism. The holding of two or more offices or positions at the same time. Revelation chapter 2 verse 9. Them that say they are Jews and are not. Let us look that up in the Bible Hub. Rev 2 and 9. Not the gateway, the hub. I know your afflictions and your poverty, yet you are rich. I know about the slander of those that say they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue of Satan. Now, these people that call themselves Jews, I'm not reading, these people that call themselves Jews are the only people on the damn face of the earth that go to synagogues. It's not that hard to understand what this Christian translation is. Christians can read all this shit in the Bible, in the New Testament, and quote it all day, but how do they always ignore this? Yet support Israel. I know your tribulation and your poverty, but you are rich, and the slander of those who say that they are you and are not. Say that they are Jews and are not, but are a synagogue. So, again, this is constantly saying the same things. I know your suffering and your poverty. I know your distress. I know the slander, the blasphemy, those committed by those who claim to be Jews but are not. But each time it says the synagogue of Satan. Synagogue, the synagogue, the synagogue, the synagogue, the synagogue. No. Just go back to Google. Yeah, whatever. Without spell check, I would have spelled sycamore. Doesn't matter, right? Alright, so here you see the star of the 6 nations that hold down the people of Israel, the children of Israel. That is not the Star of David. That is the star of the oppressor of the children of David. So, just type in people. kind of people go to synagogues? Hey, I'm from Kentucky. What kind of people go to synagogues? Oh, look at that. So, there you go. With the image of them that say they are Jews and are not. Look, it's very easy to combat this, because even in Revelation chapter... Oh, you know what? Let's just go to Acts. People like to stay in the New Testament, right? Oh, well, the New Testament is, ooh, it's so great. Okay, well, let's go to Acts 13:1. All right? And let's go to Bible Hub again. We've done this before. These are Israelites, Simon and Barnabas. We all know Simon is Israelite. He's one of the disciples, right? He's listed in the disciples in Matthew chapter 10. He was called nigger. You don't think Niger is nigger? Then in the New Living Translation, he's called the black man. Let's see. Does that mean nigger now? Or does it just mean the black man in one Bible and the color black in another Bible? Or it must be black nigger olives. I'm sick of the fucking Masonic checkerboard, man. I'm sick of you guys picking and choosing. The white people don't want to admit it's nigger. The black people want to admit it's nigger, but it's about them. No, it's about fucking people that are Afro-Asianic who are insulted by being called black. It's about light-skinned people that are Afro-Asian, living among black people, trying to be down with black people, saying, I am black, nigga. That's what it's about. Not about black. Man. Let me go back to this, because this makes the most sense. Because this fake Jew says, hey, I got something special I need to say to the Negroes. Hey, these are the same Negroes in the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary. The definition that states the children of Ham does not include the Negroes. Oh, if Negroes are non-African, oh, they must be Japhet, right? No. Come on, you guys are playing games. Wicked children pretending to be Israelites, leading all men astray. These are brown-skinned people on here. I understand you mixed black. I understand you mixed black. That makes you the bastard then. That makes you the mamzer. That's what you're missing. That's what you're missing. If your dad was African, then you're a Canaanite. Then you're a servant to the servant. If your dad was Negro and your mom was African, then you're Hebrew, but you're a mamzer. You are mixed. You are not a whole. The same argument you've been saying to everybody else. I'm not going to look at you any differently. You've called me a mamzer for 5 years, and I don't look at you any differently. I've still preached to you, uphold the commandments. I've still preached the truth to you. No matter where I found it. That's weird. You. The problem is you guys don't want to admit the truth. No matter how many times he's staring you in the face. This dude is the Lord of the world. His throne is the Lord of the world. The world is given over to the hands of the wicked. The Christians are his armies. The descendants that live today are the army, are the descendants of the army that came and killed our forefathers. Of course they don't want you to go back to God. Of course they want you to follow a false deity. Do Catholics preach Christ? Yes. Do Christians preach Christ? Yes. Are they all on the same team? Yes. Are they really under a Luciferian control that preaches away from the Creator? We don't have a Father until that covenant, that second covenant is made. He is our Creator, not our Father. Not yet. You guys have a hard time dealing with reality. There's a lot of fables running around. On these walls you can see the lemon children with blonde hair. You can, truthfully, you can see all gradients of brown. When you look at the children, you can even see dark ones. He's got a pretty complete. He's got great teeth. Look at those teeth, man. So this is gonna lead us back to the Indians crossing the Bering Strait. So you got to understand what's really going on. There's no such thing as a Caucasian Israelite. Israelites of Niger. They're Afro-Asiatic. People that are non-melanated insult them by calling them nigger or Niger or black. Called Niger. Called Niger. Niger. I mean, do we really have to type in what's Niger? Well, you know. Here, we'll type in Spanish. Oh, we need Latin, right? We don't need Spanish, we need Latin. Latin for black. So, come on, dude. If you call somebody black, obviously that has to do with skin. No. When you deal with the whole politics of the caste system of lightness to darkness within people that are called black, this is the situation that's actually being talked about in the Bible. Now, you're a grown person, or you have a grown mind. Even if you're 12, your mind is grown. Still growing, just like the same size of someone that's in their 30s. You can think for yourselves. Now, if you don't like the things I've said, the way I presented them, or anything like that, that's fine. But understand, this definition is defined for a reason. These slave posters describes Negroes and shows a unique image of feathers on the head and on the waist. Now, it doesn't show one feather in the back of the head like you always see that bullshit on Tonto and all that other crap. It shows you something completely different, yet unique. The same thing you see here. See if I can find one in color. The exact same thing you see here. Now, these dumb savage Indians built all these unique buildings in the background. Okay? That's a roof. That's a Capitol dome. Those are pillars. That's pillars. So, these savages are ancestors, or at least ancestors of Negroes, and Canaanite ancestors were conquered at this time too. This is how absurd it is. Here you have maps from 16, 17, 1800s, whenever they're drawn, and all the Indians they draw on it are black skin. They draw them so dark the computer doesn't show a good resolution. Try to brighten it. But this is America, with dark Indians everywhere. But to your children, they show you books with Indians of white persuasion over and over again. So, you just keep these things in mind. Nobody's going to hand you your past. You have to find it. Nobody's going to hand you your freedom. You have to get your ass up off your couch.